Hey guys, Sunday night here in the shop, and I wanted to do a quick video just walking you around my 2008 Jeep Wrangler. I've had quite a few questions about my Jeep and a few requests for a rig walk around, so I put off this video for a very long time, but I'm going to give it a shot. And while I know my Jeep is pretty stock looking, it really has quite a few kind of thoughtful considerations and performance improvements to make it the vehicle that I think really works best for me. So I know it's not wild, but hope you enjoy anyways. So let's start from the ground up. The Jeep sits on a set of BFG all-terrain KO2s. They are in the size 34 by 10.5 17s. Now I went with this size just because they have that narrower width and taller aspect ratio, as well as being a load range D type. And then my axles, I have the Dana 30 front, Dana 44 rear, but I have re-geared to 456. I've had that done by a reputable shop here in Kelowna. And then protecting each diff, I do have a Rancho cast cover, which I kind of won. It's a long story, but I didn't pay for those, so they were given to me by Tenneco. So yeah, they've been great. And I did put a limited slip in the rear, but at the time I just didn't want to spend a ton extra putting lockers in. And really I found that so far I haven't really needed them. There would have been a few times that they would have been nice, but for the most part the limited slip does what I need it to do, and supplemented by the Jeep's traction control. We're just here at the front of the Jeep, and just recently I put in the TerraFlex heavy duty ball joints, and I had replaced the ball joints with stock Spicer ones once before, probably about 40,000 kilometers ago, and they were shot again, so I figured I would go with the TerraFlex, which have phenomenal reviews and are adjustable. So I think some claims are that they're the last ball joint you'll ever need. And then really the only other steering mod I have is the Old Man Emu steering stabilizer, but I do plan on going with a Curry Correct Link drag link and tie rod. I just have to find a place to order those from that's not going to charge an arm and a leg for shipping. Additionally, up front we have the JKS disconnects, as well as chromoly axles by 10 Factory. For suspension, I do have a 2.5 Dual Sport XT lift-in from American Expedition Vehicles. And I went with this lift because it was kind of all-inclusive in the kit. It came with the springs, shocks, which are frequency tuned. I have the geometry correction brackets as well, which is supposed to just give you that slight edge again on performance. And so far I have really no complaints, other than for the amount paid, you sure don't get a drastically different stance in the Jeep. But honestly, for towing and just driving the Jeep as is, it's a phenomenal suspension system. Front here, I do have an ARB Deluxe bull bar, some aftermarket LED driving lights, just kind of knockoffs of the ARB intensities, but they work really well. I've compared them to a Rigid Industries light bar that my dad has, and the color temperature is basically identical. These throw out a little bit more dispersed light, but don't shoot quite as far. But overall, for the price, I'm really happy with them. And then in the middle, I'm running a Warren VR 10,000 pound winch, just with wire rope, and I got it super cheap. And then on top of that, there was a rebate, so that's why I went with this winch. And then here's the flip up license plate, and another, I think it's the Daystar isolator here, just to help with vibration dampening. And then I've used Laminex film over the fog lights. Also mounted to the bumper is a air jack for my ARB compressor. I have it routed, but it's currently not working just because the hose keeps coming off at the compressor end. Moving up to the hood, I do have these Rugged Ridge hood latches. They work really well. I got them as a gift. I would never have bought them for myself, but really glad that I have them. And then the bolt lock on the hood. I should point out too, the headlights are slightly modified. They are a CB Euro kind of glass headlight housing in replace of the stock plastic ones. And then I believe that they're running H4 bulb kind of conversion with a KC harness to convert those. Moving around to the back of the Jeep, I do have the TerraFlex heavy duty hinge tire carrier, the actual tire carrier and heavy duty hinge. Attached to the heavy duty tire carrier, you'll see we have a custom aluminum basket. My dad actually welded the basket up for me. I provided most of the design, but a lot of it was collaborative as we worked through actually fabricating. We each fabricated one for our Jeeps. So he did one as well, but he doesn't have max tracks, so this side here is a little bit different, and he's carrying some Rotopacks. So next, let me take you into the back of the Jeep here, show you what I got going on. So first thing is, I installed a couple sets of LED lighting in here, and it really helps illuminate the back of the Jeep as well as the outside around it. So on the tailgate here, we have a custom built tailgate table. I just had some stuff kicking around, some material kicking around, so I whipped that up. It's not the most heavy duty, but I've tested it with 2 25-pound dumbbells, so I know it'll hold at least 50 pounds. And while these other lights are on, it does have separate illumination as well. And then this little rubber snubber here and latch, and it was rattle free, which is awesome. So then here in the back, one of the first things I actually built, kind of custom fabrication I did for my Jeep, and it was in my green Jeep before this, is this shelf, and it's rock solid. I actually built it to be removable, but by the time you add some wiring to it and load it up with some stuff, it's basically a permanent fixture here. But it's nice, it's carpeted, kind of cuts down on some of the noise, no rattles, and then you can see here I have a mesh as well as trying a few different types of bungee kind of fasteners to continue holding stuff down, but it basically means that we have a silent ride. And then over here I have some power. I've run some fairly heavy gauge wire down back from the battery, directly from the auxiliary battery, which I'll talk about later. And then I pulled a few circuits off of it, have one kind of hardwired to an inverter that I just have strapped there, another to a cigarette plug, and then on the far side here you can see that I have an Anderson power pole, which I use to connect my refrigerator. So speaking of refrigerator, down below here I have a custom built drawer slide, and it's double locking, so locks in and out, and full extension. They're 400-pound drawer slides, and it's all hard bolted direct to the Jeep body, or like seatbelt bolts or seat bolts. And yeah, so I typically have a Dometic CFX 50 refrigerator here when we're out camping or exploring. And then I didn't want to hack up the stock carpeting below that just to make it fit, so I actually built a couple kind of replacement panels out of aluminum, and you can see that they're just on here with some Allen keys. And what I do for that is actually keep the Allen key strapped here, so I can always access these panels. So I keep lesser used stuff under there. I do have some tools, you know, the stock Jeep jack, extra accessory belt, and yeah, just some other odds and ends that you don't have to access super frequently. Yeah, and underneath here you can see too, I have an axe mounted up under here as well for kind of convenient storage. And then you can see tucked away nicely in the corners are the right line gear bags. You won't be able to see it too much on this side because between the fridge and the side of the Jeep here, I can put a folding table. Up top, I also have a right line gear bag. To show you the hinges here real quick, I peeled off some flaking paint and just replaced it with some truck bed liner. The real reason I'm showing you the hinges though is because I've replaced all of the hinge pin liners with the TMR Customs Delron liners, so makes for a really smooth opening door and easy to remove the doors if I wanted to. And then here on the back of the seat I have just a quick organizational solution. Just put some dog bags, spare radios, and then I have my Garmin inReach easily accessible. And I made a whole bunch of these paracord handles, so you'll see them all around the Jeep, a couple at the front, back of the seat, and then up here on the second row. And then up top I have my Jeep attic. Whoops. So basically just secured a cargo liner all the way around, and then just can access it from either side here through these elastic ends. And it's great when you have multi-day trips and you might have wet clothing or something, but while you're driving it can certainly air out and dry out. And then because we do have a dog, you can see the dog bed over there just covered in hair, have this seat cover which seems to be sufficient, works well. So taking a look at the front of the Jeep here, I done a few mods up in the cockpit here, and I guess first is my National Luna dual battery monitor and alarm. So basically just a constant readout of my battery voltage. It's tucked up nicely here underneath the steering wheel so it doesn't distract at night, but I can easily see how each of my batteries are doing. And working from the top down, I have a Yaesu FTM 400 XDR and a custom switch panel. So you can see my ARB compressor. I have some front auxiliary driving lights. This is actually for a backup camera, and some rock lighting, and then some reverse lights. So next up I have a Daystar upper dash panel, and I've bolted a couple ram ball mounts to it, and then their X grips for cell phones, and then in the back I have their tab tight mount, basically just hard bolted to the Daystar panel, and this allows me to run my small Samsung tablet. And then over here on the left hand side I have my Red Arc tow controller, Tow Pro Elite brake controller knob, and then that unit is actually mounted underneath the kick panel here on the driver's side as well. And then for my Yaesu radio main unit is mounted actually near the driver's feet down below there. And then over in the console, I have installed some heated seats just with a cheap Amazon seat heating kit, but they work awesome and were super easy to install. Under each seat I have a best top storage box. I think these are a little like cheaper than the Tuffy boxes, but they seem to work well. I don't need them to be ultra secure. They're mostly just a handy place to store a little extra. On this side I typically just have kind of an OBD2 code reader and kind of performance-y tuner thing, a Hypertech. And then on the other side I have a small electrical kit to help do electrical troubleshooting. And then here under the driver's seat you can see I carry a fire extinguisher and a large flashlight. Alright, so I apologize for the mess. Haven't cleaned under here in quite some time. I'll start up on the top. I installed a set of LED lights. I had these just kicking around and had them on a previous Jeep, and they work really well. Tried to keep it super low tech, so they're just grounded to the hood, and then I have an alligator clip that allows me to connect it to a battery, so I can really choose which battery I want to run it off of, and basically just it gives me light if I needed to check oil or do anything under the hood at night. So here for my dual battery system, I have the RedArc BCDC 1225D. This allows me to charge an auxiliary battery from my primary as the Jeep's running, or the main battery has extra voltage. It also allows me to, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but have solar input, and I have it here attached to the front bumper. So yeah, when we're camping, setting up a base camp, it's nice to be able to toss the solar panel and have it charge the fridge, charge the second battery for the fridge. So in my rat's nest of wiring, this is kind of my next project to tackle. I have a Rugged Ridge dual battery tray, and then two Motomaster AGMs. Moving over to the other side here, I have, you can see the yellow tubing is for my compressor air jack at the front. This here is a kind of a custom fuse and breaker, or sorry, fuse and relay box from my switch pod inside, and it's sitting on a kind of a custom made aluminum bracket that my dad helped me make. And then I have the ARB just single cylinder compressor, which has been rock solid for the probably 6 years or so that I've had it. So next let's just talk about the roof rack. Right now I just have the Cargo Master cage here and some Yakima crossbars and their mounting brackets. You can kind of see them underneath there. And then I have the Rhino-Rack Sunseeker 2 awning mounted up here. I do plan on eventually switching out this roof rack just because I think it's a little bit bulkier than I would have liked it. So now I'm back at the Jeep again, and I installed the Mopar 7-pin wiring kit, and normally it sits down here on a bracket below the bumper, but I have scraped quite a few times. I mean, I haven't taken off that 4-pin, but scraped quite a few times, so I figured I'd try to relocate it and managed to get it here in the bumper. And so it the 7-pin allows me to run power back to the trailer, also allows me to run the brakes.